Hello and welcome to World's Personal Finance. Today's topic is going to be emergency fund. We will discuss some very basic reason. First question should be what it is. Second should be why do I need it? And the third question could be how much do I need it? Is probably these are the three questions you need to answer for emergency fund, and this is applicable for pretty much everybody, starting from a student, freshers who are getting into the market, to middle age, even people who are at the retirement time too. Now, first question is what is emergency fund? So the word emergency is basically, you have to highlight it very clearly. You understand what emergency is. What is emergency? It could be either from the two different ways you can get that thing. One is from the income side, like in today's world nowadays, it's a very common story. People are getting laid off, and you basically suddenly lose a job. Another one is basically the expense, and you suddenly get something which you were not expecting, like suddenly you fell down, there is a big huge bill you basically come up with. You have to pay from the hospital, or any kind of educational thing, or any kind of other thing for your relatives or something. Expense could be anything, anytime, correct? And that's basically what you really need to have all the time. Income side also, you really need to understand another thing. How do you diversify that thing? That's what we will talk about in future. Because should we have just one source of income? Should you have multiple source of income? How do you do it? Let's say you just have a job. Can you do some kind of a freelancing on the side, moonlighting kind of thing? Is there any way you can basically diversify something so that you are not dependent on like one job kind of thing, correct? Similarly, on the expense side also, you really need to make sure you have enough money to basically cover the expenses, correct? And that's kind of relates to the why questions. Why do you need it? Because anytime you are having some issue, you really, again, this whole channel is all about your financial independence, correct? So effectively, if your goal is financial independence, you really have to kind of make sure like you have enough funds so that you don't have to basically ask for money from somewhere, correct? Now, first, this to how much money do you need? Now, first question, in order to do the how much money do you need, it is very critical to know about your expense factor. I'm amazed, and I can very clearly tell you, I have seen so many people who are financially probably well off but never know how much they are actually spending per month. It is very critical for you, again, it is very critical for you to probably sit down and get the whole expense for the whole year, divide it by 12 so that you know the monthly thing. Why do you want to get the whole thing? Because you want to kind of average out, because there would be some month it will be shooting up for some reason, some month it's going to be going up, down some reason, correct? Let me just give you a simple example. Let's say your expense piece, this is you have a rent or mortgage where you need to stay, correct? You do have something like say groceries to eat, correct? So groceries. You also need something like let's say you're a student, you may have to pay like fees or tuition or whatever, right? If you have a kid, maybe the same thing applicable for you, right? You also need to have some say utilities everywhere. These are so these are sort of must-have kind of bucket. You have to have something which you have to pay per month in order to survive. So that's an essential piece which you really need to do it. Then there is of course a section which is this is disposable income, which is kind of sort of entertainment thing. My pen is not working properly. So entertainment part of it, which basically say you want to go out for restaurant, correct? So that can be probably you have to cut down. Maybe you need to go for some bowling or some kind of an entertainment, correct? So that kind of thing probably you need to do it. You may want to go to some movies and you spend some monies on movies probably. That can be probably. So this is the bucket which can be probably you can block it, or if there is a no income, you probably can get rid of this thing. But this is you have to pay, otherwise you may be getting kicked out. If you don't pay like 3 months of mortgage, probably you bank may proceed for foreclosure. The company or this thing can basically work for try to kick you out, correct? So there are consequences for that. Groceries, well, you can probably buy it in cash, you can buy it in probably credit card, but there is a limit up to which you can go for. Tuition and this thing, again, you have to pay, otherwise you cannot really literally go for it. Utilities, you have to again pay, otherwise you cannot really survive, or they will cut off your this thing. So again, it is very critical to understand that there is a section or a bucket which basically needs you have to pay for it for every month. Then there is some extra part which is more of an entertainment, and there is certain things which basically, let's say every you want to travel only in summer or something, correct? So those are also discretionary, but they are suddenly like you have to pay like 3 people's plane fare, correct? So like that's quite a bit of money. So you will see if your monthly chart goes, suddenly January is like this, February suddenly maybe this, or February is also like this. March, maybe it's spring break, so you basically have to spend more money, correct? And then again it goes down. So there would be all ups and downs, and you would literally have to have an average of that thing, and that should be considered your average monthly expense. Now, how much you should have? Typically by thumb rule, depending upon on your situation, like typically they say for single, they want more. If you're married, it probably is little less because maybe it's more diversified. If you are a double income family, it would be more. Other person can pick up the tab. So typically this is like 6 months kind of thing, and this is between 3 to 6 months. But if you are really conservative, typically I would suggest even more, like 9 to 12 months probably. You should have. So what is 9 to 12 months? So 9 to 12 months of monthly expenses, correct? And that basically is most likely this part and maybe part of this part, but this has to be there. So what is your basic thing, which is you cannot avoid, has to be basically multiplied by 6 to 9 or whatever, should be what is your emergency fund, correct? Similarly, if you're married, if you're, let's say you make 70% of the money and your spouse makes like other 30%, maybe this can be varied. That's one of the reasons, like the amount is literally a little less for married people. Again, those are thumb rule. That doesn't mean like you always have to go by. But bottom line is, for emergency fund, it is for emergency, first and foremost thing. Why do you need it? You really need that thing for your financial independence. And how much do you need it? Depending on your situation, at least around 6 months of work. If you do that thing, again, you will be able to survive by yourself. You should not, yes, it would be tough. Let's say, just give me a simple example. Nowadays, a lot of people are getting laid out. because market situations, things are not always in your control, correct? So you will basically face these calamities or adversarial situations all the time. So in that situation, you should always have that emergency fund. Now, how do you want to keep that emergency fund? Typically, it should be considered a liquid fund. Now, when I say liquid fund, that could be a CD, that could be a cash, that could be a money market. These are the typical way you want to do it. Something which is withdrawable at will. You do not want to put that money, even CD is not really that thing, because if you do it, they will deduct some fees or something, correct? Something which you typically can withdraw very quickly and get it done. But then if you want it in 2 months, you can pretty much keep that money for a couple of months of CD2 to get something, correct? So again, every nickel and dime probably works in that kind of a situation. But from a bottom line perspective, emergency fund can happen because of income issue or expense issue. You always need to understand there is a bucket which you have to pay per month basis, so to say. Make sure that is covered, enough fund you have in a liquid format, which will basically carry you through. So that's more or less for this one. I would appreciate any kind of feedback from you. Please subscribe, share, and if you guys give any kind of feedback or comment, I will appreciate that. And till the next time, have a good day. Bye.